Hello. So I have a 3-pound cylinder that I threw here, and I am going to shape it into a closed spherical type form in this video. I'm looking around for everything that I need. So I got a wet spot. It was very dry because I just put a rib on there a minute ago and straightened it up and stuff. So I'm going to get it nice and wet on the surface. I'm going to put my hand in there and run some water along my hand so that it then feeds it down the inside wall. I don't want any dry spots. I can even take the sponge and just gently go down the inside wall. Especially if your clay's been sitting on the wheel for a little bit, unattended to, it's going to be drier on the surface. Okay, so to make this cylinder into more of a round form, there's a few different approaches. One is that you could shape it from the inside initially and then collar in the top. And then another approach is to do it more like a pole, where you put your fingers in the pole, pull up the wall position and move both hands together like that and try to come back in, and then you have to collar. You're going to have to collar either way. I think I like to usually do the both hands approach. So I'm going to go down here and I'm going to push with some pressure at the bottom. So I'll bring in the bottom a little bit narrower, not a lot, but just a little bit. There we go. Now I can pull up and out. So this is good because if your wall's a little thick, you can thin it and shape it a little bit. So I'm coming out, 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 out. Now about here, I'm going to think about not coming out so much, going up and then actually in, and I'm going to drop my elbow for stability, put a thumb over here for my inside hand, and then now I can bring my hands in. So it looks tall, it's not spherical yet. This is the first move. So little by little, you turn it from a tall cylinder to a sphere-ish, spherical shape, closed form. Pretty good, not much water down there. You have a little, get it out. You might want a sponge on a stick is a handy thing to have. I generally never have that around and stick my hands down in there. So I'm gonna now sprinkle some water here on the outside and do a little tiny bit of a collar. These just kind of remind me like the Winnie the Pooh honey pot initially, and then bring that in. But I don't want to collar too much because I need to get my hand in there. And I'm going to do that one more time. So my hand goes in, fingers are at the bottom, and I'm going to stretch, I'm going to push in at the very bottom just ever so slightly, and then start to push the clay out from the inside. And then I catch the clay with the outside hand. I'm not trying to thin the wall, really. I'm trying to shape it. I'm bringing it out. So I'm going to catch that top with my thumb because it got a little bit off. What you want to do is basically create a neck, even if you don't want a neck in your finished shape, because you need something to collar. I happen to have a sponge on a stick, a homemade one. This is like a back scratcher that I taped a sponge onto. And I do have a little tiny bit of water. What happens if you leave the water in there? The bottom will crack. It has a high risk of cracking because it gets hydrated and swells up, and then when it shrinks and cracks more than the rest. I bumped that top somewhere along the line, so I'm going to set that rim, compress it. Okay, so I'm going to now switch to a rib. So I'm going to use my wooden rib, and I'm going to cut away a bit of clay at the bottom and then shape up through in a similar way as I just was with my hands, but the outside is going to hold the rib, and so I can push down at the bottom. I don't have to go all the way down, but I'm kind of getting a sense of extra clay that I have there. So it didn't do too much, but it refined what I already had. Now I'm going to use this stick and cut away about 1/8 of an inch thickness of extra clay. You know, if you're really conscientious, you want to end up with that much down there. But I like to cut that off now because it helps me to see the form, and I can get a little more round even from the outside. There we go. A lot of potters just leave that stuff at the bottom, you know, and then trim it off later or something. I'm not going to trim this probably. It's just a closed form. So I'm going to burnish it. It's for the burnishing project. So I'm going to think about that. I don't want a lot of ridges and things like that if I want a smooth surface. But I'm not super concerned about light rib lines. Kind of actually like them. So now I'm going to use this sponge here and talk about collaring. I don't want any dry things catching my hand, so I'll get that ready. But I'm kind of done down here for now. And now let's collar in that neck. So it's the typical collaring position like this. And you come in, elbow steady, and then light pressure. And I'm squeezing that neck, and then I roll my fingers in. And so we'll see what this looks like in a minute. Come on out. So I still have quite a bit of height here. So I still have something to push against. But I brought it in, and now I'm going to set that lip a little bit. And then, so I collared it in, but really this needs to come in a lot more here. So now I'm going to do like a pull the wall up with my fingertips. So collar and pull is a good way to go. And you get like a running start, go low. And as you get smaller in the diameter, speed your wheel up a little bit. Because the RPMs and the actual speed are different things. So on a wide form, you want the wheel going really slow because each RPM, clay is going really fast. On a narrow form, you need to go faster because it doesn't take long for that rotation to take place. Okay, now I'm going to go back in. My finger's going to go right here, and I'm going to push it in as a pull. And as I get towards the center, the electric wheel is really actually convenient for this kind of stuff because you can speed up as you go as opposed to a kick wheel. It tends to slow down if you're not kicking it, but you can do this on any kind of wheel. It's throwing at this kind of basic level is manipulating the clay. Okay, so wow, it really started to slump on me a little bit thinner than I thought. So I'm going to take the rib here and my fingers down in there, and I'm going to push so that I can kind of shape it more spherical. The shoulder actually collapsed a little bit on me. It's the first time I've thrown this clay body in this form. I did some bowls with it earlier, and each clay body is a little bit different. This is pretty smooth clay, and it's also got a lot of iron in it. I'm not sure if that affects that strength, but it's okay because I can kind of shape it with my rib now. That's better. So you saw what I did there. I kind of held up the shoulder with my finger, and then I pressed that with the outside rib. And then so now I can bring this in. So I'm going to set that top. And so there's an opening now. I wish that camera was a little bit higher. I guess it's not. I'm going to squeeze it just all the way closed. So I'll show you. And I just do it like that. If I feel confident that the basic shape is there, I don't need to spend much other time or effort than that. So I just went, and you notice there's a little knob still sitting up top. That's fine because now that the air is closed off, I can use a rib and I could play with the shape. And I actually leave those sometimes as part of the design. I think I like that. So if I wanted to get rid of that extra top there, I could just keep working at it with the ribs and my sponge and push it down and smooth it out. I actually am going to burnish this, so that's actually good. for my shape or the form that I'm going for. And so I'm gonna push this here. But once they're in this stage, they're fun to play with because it's not going to collapse like it did on me a minute ago. So one rib that you can use to really smooth things out is a metal rib. I don't use these much myself, but I do on this kind of form if I want it really smooth. So like I'm going to put it on the top there, button. Cool. And then I'm going to turn it so that the curve is there and I can kind of catch a little edge that I had created there. Okay, so I'm going to leave that like that. Now I'm going to show you that you can curve this to your liking and hold it at it so it's dragging on the surface, and you can smooth the clay out, super smooth. It pushes all the coarse particles in and leaves you with a really smooth surface, which for this project would be really good. For glaze, you don't necessarily need that, but it could be good. Cool. So that is already shiny. There's a little line right there. So I'm going to go back and just hit up that shoulder a little bit. This is sensitive clay, more sensitive than I'm used to. Okay, that's pretty good. Cool. I ended up with some subtle rib lines, and I like them. So this is complete. I'm going to try something that may or may not work out great. But often people will use like a textured cutoff tool to give the bottom of the pot some interest. And so there's wiggle wires, they call them. This is like a spring that's pulled out. You can use all kinds of different intertwined threads and twines and fishing line and things like that. I'm going to show you one that I'm going to use. So I'm making a groove for my wire to go down into. So I don't want any extra clay at the bottom. And I'm actually letting that foot flare out a little bit. Okay, cool. I'll clean that up later. I'll clean my hands. This is a wire, cutoff wire. It's huge. I use it for really large pieces to cut them off the wheel or whatever sculpture. And it is like a braided line. If I use this, it's gonna have a lot of drag. I hope I don't mess anything up here, but I think it'll leave a cool texture. So I'm gonna push down, spin the wheel, hold it taut, and pull it through. Okay, it survived. Now I can't look at it, I gotta let it firm up. So I can take this whole thing that's on that and pull it off. So there's the closed form throwing demonstration. See you later.